Hi, everybody. Welcome to this special edition on this podcast on the Saturday night Niners Radio 49 2023 NFC Champion San Francisco 49ers 2020 season recap on Niners Radio 49 podcast. I know it's been nearly a week, a full week, almost a week tomorrow, 1 week from last Sunday. 1 week from tomorrow would be a week since the Super Bowl loss. I know a lot of you guys are still, you know, tough week to lose the Super Bowl. The Niners losing 25-22, a heartbreaking fashion to the Kansas City Chiefs. For the Niners, the second time, their third Super Bowl loss in a row. Second for the Chiefs, their third Super Bowl title in 5 years. They become the eighth different team in NFL history to win at least 4 Super Bowls or more. And only 4 other teams have won at least 5 or more. And the Chiefs become the first team since the Bill Belichick, Tom Brady Patriots nearly 2 decades ago to win back-to-back Super Bowls in both 2003 and in 04, January of 04 against the Panthers, and then January of 05 against the Eagles nearly 2 decades ago. So we'll so a lot of you guys are watching on our Facebook channel and on our YouTube page. We are going to welcome everybody coming on to watch this live as we that's the first weekend, first time in probably since early August or any meaningful games we've had not involving football. And we're going to have the open lines though tonight as well. If you want to come on talk 49ers football, our hotline number is 415-529-29 or no, 415-529-7979 is the hotline number. That's going to be that's our hotline number. As so we'll the open lines will be 415 529 7979 is that hotline number. You want to talk 49er football, talk about the offseason. You can talk about the Super Bowl as well. We're going to dig into that tonight. We're going to have this is like we do this every year. Every year we do this as the season has come to an end, as the 49ers coming through their we recap we'll just do what's going to happen, little recap of the Super Bowl. Then we're going to recap of the offseason, what's going to be upcoming for the 49ers during the free agency period. So, again, if you want to get on, 415-529-7979 is the hotline number. We're streaming this both on Niners Radio 49 and on Niners Radio 9 on Facebook as well, satellite as well. We get you all to come on as well. We will also get you to the important dates of the NFL season for the off season, what's going to end up happening in the coming weeks. We'll get to that as well. If you want to come on talk 49ers football, that is the number. 415-529-7979 is the hotline number. And we'll go into it. We'll a lot, like I said, We'll also talk about the Niners made a change a couple days after the Super Bowl. They have parted ways with defensive coordinator Steve Wilkes. We're going to get in. We're going to get in a dive of that. What happened, not just with the Super Bowl loss, uh, and everybody talk about they used him as a scapegoat. No, there's other things that led up to where they were at. So, so we will we'll have open lines if you want to come on. We will. So let's get into it. Of course, the week it was Greg Papa. The you look at what happened with Steve Wilkes. You got to look at the big picture. You know, the reason why I mean, they decided to go in a different direction, and it just was simple. Looking at this, looking at the, I'm gonna pull it up right now. I'm gonna pull it up. Just to share with the rest of the Giants. He was let go. You gotta look at it right there. It's the 49ers in the regular season. They points per game they gave up was 17 and a half, 304 yards per game, and then the postseason 25.7 a game. They've given up 409 yards per game, and that was the reason why they had to. Not just because of the debacle of and then you look at that Monday night game against Minnesota where he had that all-out blitz and Kirk Cousins carved them up. Ended up being a loss for San Francisco on Monday night back in late October. But there was just other factors that was the decision of not bringing Steve Wilkes back. The Niners, of course, last year had the number one overall defense. And, you know, when they lost to the Eagles in the NFC Championship, they really didn't get a chance to get their full what would have happened if Purdy didn't get hurt. So those are deciding factors. The deciding factors why they decided to go into a different direction. And you know, like I said, and I've talked to some of my, and I think some of my one of my inside sources, they said to a source of mine saying I think the Niners ownership brass, the coaching staff, ownership brass as well was not pleased with the performance with Steve Wilkes. We don't know, uh, and just you know the way how that defense, you know, they wanted them to because the previous year when the Niners had the number one defense, they wanted to have that standard, and you know, and I think because early in the year when Wilkes was in the booth and they asked him to come down on the field. So it was a different thing when you lose. I mean, like I said, Robert Saleh, D'Amico Ryans was there for those players, but and there was some things that went on. But I think it's good that they go in a different direction. They have to go in a different direction because you know, and you know, you look at everybody. Also, you know, talk about the game, the law. I mean, I want to get to as you know on here on Satellite Digital Media. Also, check us out for all of our latest. If you want to talk 49ers football, 415-529-7979. Uh, and always check out all our content, youtube.com/@ Niners Radio 49. And you can check us out on all of our other content we could have on there. We could YouTube.com/at NINERS Radio 49. And we can also talk and I want to pull this up with Greg Papa, what Greg Papa said on the with Greg Papa, what he said. And Greg Papa, who was also on the Rich Eisen show. I'm trying to think what was his thoughts. We're going to load that up in just a moment. We'll so we're going to pull up that interview from what his thoughts. What was his thoughts on what is his thoughts? We're going to talk about that. We will pull up that interview in just a moment. It was this is what he had to say on the Rich Eisen show, and it was this is what he said to Andrew Siciliano, who was filling in for Rich Eisen on the Rich Eisen show, and we're gonna pull that interview with his thoughts. I think what Greg Papa, the voice of the 49ers, said. So this is what Greg Papa, his thoughts. We're going to pull up that interview right now. What his thoughts of Steve Wilkes firing, and then the potential now Bill Belichick and more possibly coming to the 49ers. Let me pull this. So I'm going to pull this.
Well, I'm heading up to Tahoe to do a little skiing, and but today would be the day, Andrew. Had the events of Sunday night gone just one play differently, we'd be having our Super Bowl parade in Santa Clara and all the way through the Bay up 101 and all the way to San Francisco. But I do want to start by sending out from the 49ers organization our deepest condolences, our thoughts and prayers are with the folks of Kansas City after a horrific, senseless, speakless tragedy that marred a great celebration for them. We can congratulate them on their Super Bowl, and hopefully the citizens of Kansas City will be able to pull through. But that was a rough afternoon to be able to watch that.
Yeah, it was. Greg, how is the story played in the Bay Area?
Well, it's hard. I mean, we lost to them in January of 2020 after the 19 season, and we were going to have a big parade. They were in a 3rd and 15 with 7 minutes and 13 seconds to play in the Super Bowl, and they ran a infamous play, famous play there, infamous here, 2-3 chip jet wasp, the 3rd and 15 to Tyreek. And otherwise, I think we win that Super Bowl. But looking back on it, we would have had a huge parade. There may have been 1 million people in San Francisco for that parade to celebrate their first title since '94. And we had a global pandemic hit, right around that time. We were unaware of a killer virus was out there. So maybe in retrospect, it saved a lot of lives. And but what happened yesterday in Kansas City, you have to wonder, we're ever going to be able to have a normal parade and celebration to celebrate our champions, or we'd have to do it in a stadium where fans go through a metal detector to get in. And if you do it that way, you're not going to be able to have 500,000 or 1 million people. So obviously, we're sickened by it. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the folks of Kansas City.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. And now we turn to the off season, not callously turning to the off season, but there is business to be done here. Free right around the corner. The combine is even closer than that in 2 weeks.
I mean, Greg Papa putting that thing into perspective. What happened? That's that video video feed from Angelo Siciliano from NFL Network filling in for Rich Eisen. Just talking about what happened in Kansas City, in retrospect, in perspective, what happened, that horrible ordeal, what went down, where 22 people was shot, then sadly, tragically, a wife and a mother did not make it, and that puts things into perspective of just such a sad thing what happened in Kansas City again. They did catch the perpetrators. I think it was 2 or 3 teenagers eventually was arrested on these horrendous crimes. They're going to be up for some very serious charges and some other additional charges. I mean, I hope that that the people get for the cowards who did that to ruin what was supposed to be a civic celebration. They catch the perpetrators who did this, and they to be held accountable for their actions. So our prayers and condolences do go out to the Kansas City Chiefs and that entire organization, and we'll see what happens. That's just a sad thing. And Greg Papa puts it into perspective. What would have happened 4 years ago when the Niners had that 2-possession lead, once again up by 10 with set little less than 7 minutes up to play, 7-13, little under 7.5 minutes up to play in that fourth quarter to be exact. On that 3rd and 15 play, that one play when Mahomes connected with Tyreek Hill, and if you and they got that first down, and we just hopefully in the future, hopefully something like this does not ever. Well, and who knows, had the Niners won that Super Bowl, not knowing how severe that was, not knowing how bad that was, in perspective, not knowing in perspective, at not knowing in perspective what would have happened, had the Niners won that Super Bowl and had over 1 million people have that parade here in San Francisco, not knowing with this global pandemic, who knows that it could have been a tragedy, So, and then we'll get on to that in a bit about the aftermath of that. That's just such a thing, and then the Niners came close up and they didn't have the parade. They missed out on another opportunity last week. We probably would have been having the parade. I believe we would have had it. The parade would have been, I think it would have been Thursday. It would have been Thursday 2 days ago. We've had the parade downtown on Market Street, the big victory celebration in Santa Clara, possibly at the stadium, and then down on Market Street. So such a sad thing, such a sad thing. But, the Niners, hopefully, they could show that resiliency and get another crack at it next year because, but we're hopefully that the city of Kansas City can bounce back from this. And I just don't like to see violence mixed into what should have been a victorious celebration. And instead, it has to be done by tragic and violence. And then our thoughts and prayers again go out to the Chiefs, the city of Kansas City, Missouri, in the Midwest. And for those who had their role in this, need to be held accountable for this. And this kind of crap, having guns at civic victory celebrations, is just totally not acceptable, period, because it takes away of the team's accomplishment what they have done for this season. So I hopefully that they can have civic celebrations peacefully in the future. And just like I said, my condolences go out to the family for that awful, horrible ordeal. That kind of violence must stop. It should not be, but it is what it is, and you just have to, hopefully, the city of Kansas City can bounce back from that. So we're gonna continue on our Niners radio recap. We got a lots to do, a lot to cover. We're going to continue on what's going to happen. Greg Papa talking with Andrew Siciliano, who's filling in for Rich Eisen on the Rich Eisen show with his thoughts. Greg Papa was a guest. Was his thoughts? What's his thoughts? The Niners going forward.
Were you surprised? Actually, let me rephrase that. If they had won, would Steve Wilkes still be the DC today?
Your first question, I'm not surprised at all. And had they won the game, I think there's a strong chance that Kyle makes a change anyway. There was just a disconnect with Steve from the beginning, and I think it's no fault of Steve's. He's a very impressive human being. When I first met him and did a lengthy, panel with the season ticket holders in front of thousands of people, he was extremely impressive. Very much I think a head coaching kind of guy, a CEO. Maybe he's better served to be a head coach than he was as a DC with this particular team. But it's just, you got to understand, Robert Saleh and D'Amico Ryans raised Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw and Nick Bosa. And it's an internal way of which they did things here. And it was going to be tough. I was a little surprised that Kyle went outside the building to hire Steve. But what he was trying to duplicate, Andrew, was what the Niners did, George Seifert did in the early 90s when Mike Holmgren left to be the coach of the Packers. They brought in Mike Shanahan, to tweak that Bill Walsh, Mike Holmgren offense. And Mike lived in a hotel. Kyle and his mom, Peggy, weren't even there for 3-4 months. And he just watched every tape, every ounce of film and all the audio from Coach Walsh and Holmgren, and put his own spin on it. And they had heartbreaks. They lost to the Cowboys. How about them Cowboys game in 92 and 93 in Dallas before they finally got the monkey off their back in 94? So Kyle was looking for that in Steve Wilkes. He holed up in a hotel when he moved out, about a year ago at this time. And for whatever reason, there was it just didn't connect. I think a lot of it was they asked Coach Wilkes to learn the Niner terminology and calling plays on defense is not like Kyle's 3-paragraph offense. You can call it, a defensive play. Anaheim is their call for a cover 3, which they run a lot. But it was more, Steve, come in and run our defense and make your subtle tweaks. And maybe he would have made more. Had he gotten past this year, he would have made more in year 2. And like Mike Shanahan been able to figure it all out at some point and win a Super Bowl. But it just didn't work for a lot of different reasons. And I think I felt, halftime of the Lion game and the championship game down 24-7, there's going to be a change made. They came back and won that game. And then I think it's a broader, say you just get Mahomes down on the ground on that 4th and 1. You make one play, you win the Super Bowl. It would have been harder to make a change, but I think there was a disconnect that spoke more than just one game. It wasn't that. So now the question is, what does Kyle do? Does he want to run that? It's not like every single snap is cover 3 defense, but that's basically what they major in, and then they adjust off of that. That's what Saleh ran almost every snap in the early days when we went to the Super Bowl in 19. And then, with D'Amico made a little more changing where you do more, cover 2 on one side, cover 4 on the other, and, mix in 3 and a little more 1. So we'll see if he wants to stay married to that. I think he does, but if you go outside of the building and you talk to somebody like Mike Vrabel, are they going to change to a 3-4 defense and ask Nick to buzz out in coverage like the Chargers do Joey Bosa? I don't think they'll do that. So the question is, do you want to go outside the building, which is intriguing because you have some of the greatest defensive coaches available that have been, maybe they're overqualified. You're really going to, get Bill Belichick to take this job, or Pete Carroll, or Mike Vrabel. I think more realistically, Brandon Staley would be someone.
But he's a 3-4 guy.
Yeah, he's a Fangio guy. He's
Right.
a cover 4. Yeah, so that's up to Kyle and just knowing him and talking to him over the years, I think he does want to continue with the same defense, but he has talked to Fangio in years past about running the defense. So if he does want to bring in a guy who's a disciple of Lord Fangio, Staley would be the guy.
Fascinating. Talking to Greg Papa here, the voice of the 49ers, coming off the Super Bowl 58 loss and heading out on vacation. Again, grateful. Thank you, Greg, for doing this. You mentioned Belichick. Obviously, that's been kicked around. That seems farcical, though. He would Kyle make the call?
You mean as far as if Belichick's on the staff?
Yeah, I mean, I've already seen it written. Would Kyle Shanahan pick up the phone and call Bill Belichick and say, "Do you want to be defensive coordinator?" That sounds insane.
They have a relationship. They text back and forth. When Jimmy Garoppolo was traded to the Niners by Belichick, it was Belichick reaching out to Kyle. And obviously John Lynch, they made other trades, and they've talked. So maybe to do it through a intermediary or an agent, you don't want to offend him. But he was a great defensive coordinator. I mean, the two greatest games ever coordinated in history is when he beat the Niners in the 1990 championship game, and the Leonard Marshall hit on Joe, and then what he did to the Bills in Super Bowl 25, playing nickel the whole game. I mean, he loves defense. That would be up to him. You probably know him a little bit. I mean, does he want to go into TV? Does he want to come in and coach defense for a year? I don't think it'd be insulting to reach out to him, but would he want to do it? If he wanted to do it, hell, go at it. And then, the question would be, if he's on the staff, Kyle's still the head coach, but Belichick knows the pecking order. I mean, when he was with Parcells, there was a lot of snapping there, going back and forth. He knows how a structure is work. He's respectful of his job. Now, would he want to do it? I know I'm not going to speak for him, but he could come here and win a Super Bowl. And so, maybe take some of the Niner offensive coaches with him when he goes to his next stop, or players that are going to be available. I'm not going to speak for Coach Belichick. That's up to him. I think Pete Carroll would be more of a natural fit, because with Belichick, he likes to vary his fronts, to be a very different defense. Not saying he has to run a 3-4, but Bill does vary things, which Kyle may be open to. I mean, I've spoken to Kyle many times about Bill Belichick. He's the best defensive coach of maybe of all time, certainly of recent years. So he has great respect for him. There's no doubt. Glowing, and Mike Shanahan does as well. They went at each other a lot, but I think that's just as far as a structure, you'd have to change things, and ultimately, whoever the name is, you want them to get the best, the most out of your players. So, what's the best defense to run for Fred and Dre and Nick and Charvarius Ward and Diamond Lenore and Talanoa Hufanga? That's who you're trying to serve. But Pete Carroll, the defense the Niners are running and has since Kyle's been the head coach.
Pete's defense.
Seattle defense.
Yeah.
Seattle's. And he's the guy who did it. So he got away from it a little bit the last couple of years. He's from the Bay Area. He used to be a defensive coordinator of the Niners. In fact, when Mike Shanahan left to become the head coach in Denver, I think he moved moved to, I don't want to say Mike's house, but then I think the same school district. They all just kind of swapped. And Pete's from here. He's from Marin, Greenberry. And so, does Pete want to do that, though? He's been coaching as the head coach level for 20 years. He hasn't run a defense since he was with the Niners in the mid-'90s. So I don't know. I mean, Mike Vrabel may still want to be ascending. They do have internal candidates. I think the one people aren't talking about, obviously, Chris Kasarik, the D-line coach, Johnny Howland, the linebacker coach, Daniel Bullock's the secondary coach. But there's a guy on the staff, Nick Sorensen, who was with Pete Carroll in Seattle when they won the championship and they won the Super Bowl 10 years ago. And he did a number of things on that staff, special teams, and then he segued over. He did play DB in the NFL, and he's very instrumental. Just watching him run the defense on, walk through Saturdays and out preparations. He's the one who's really hands-on quite a bit. But he's never, run a defense before. It'd be somewhat of a leap of faith. But at the same time, neither did D'Amico Ryans. He had a good idea he could do it, but D'Amico was a great linebacker and a linebacker coach. So it'll be intriguing to see which way Kyle goes. First of all, do you want to go internal, external, inside the building, outside, and do you want to change the structure of the defense at all, or do you want to stay predominantly being a cover 3 based defense?
And then if it's Pete or Vrabel or Belichick, then I want the camera there for Hard Knocks, because that would be must see TV.
We wouldn't have to. We went to the Super Bowl last year.
I know, but
we don't meet the
requirements. Still, just do it.
I know,
which they wouldn't do it.
Kyle would not like that.
I want to go back to the game. One last thing here before I let you go. And again, thank you for your time here on vacation.
Anything for you, brother.
So I don't know if you've seen. Have you seen the Inside the NFL treatment yet, or can you not watch?
Yeah. I've watched snippets. Honestly, it's painful for me.
Yeah.
I went back and watched the game a little bit, but I excerpts. Which one do you want to talk about?
Well, let's talk about the 4th and 1 here, because you got Trent Williams on the sideline saying, "Watch the keeper. It's going to be Pat. He's going to run." And then you see the sideline angle when he does turn the corner, and when Bosa realizes they blew it, he kind of has his hands out like, "What the H," right? And then you have Trent Williams again, kind of saying like, "I told you." On the sideline, when you and Tim Ryan are up there in the booth, your great partner, the great T-Rock. What did you see? Did you guys see it coming? How did it unfold?
Well, I mean, there were several plays. That was obviously a big one. But I think the fact that Kelsey let him out in space there, it was really hard to defend that play. Either way, it was a perfect, unless you overload the side he's going to, and he made his check to the other side, it was going to be a difficult. He had a two-way option. If there was pressure right in space, then Kelsey just releases the flat. So it was a really hard play to cover. The one that bothered me more was the zone read. They ran right behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Nick said he hasn't run that. And even Tony Romo has said, we've all seen Patrick Mahomes run. Are you kidding me? I mean, last year in the Super Bowl with a bad ankle, he ran past Javon Hargrave to get him into field goal range to win. And he did the same thing to us later in the game. And he did it against Cincinnati. He did it against Jacksonville. He did it on one foot because he had the high ankle sprain. So he led them in rushing. The leading rusher for the Kansas City
66
Chiefs,
yards.
Was not Pacheco. It was him. So you know that he's So those are but there are elements to their offense that's really hard to defend. And I think looking back on it, I'd like to see the Niners incorporate more combination routes to pop Deebo Samuel open, not just try to run linear routes against Trent McDuffie where he just cannot uncover. What Kansas City does, like the corn dog play that they ran Tony and Sky Moore in last year's Super Bowl. That's ultimately what beat us, was that in and out action by McCole Hardman. And it's hard to cover that. Trevarius Ward, they didn't throw Trevarius Ward the whole day. But when they needed that touchdown, they ran a sprint right option that way, and it's an easy pitch. And then Kelsey just runs a little interference. So the bottom line is they're three outstanding coaches, and Matt Nagy's there as well. But you got Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo, and Dave Tobe. I mean, these are veteran guys that they're all in their 60s. They've been around forever. You knew going into the game, their personnel is fabulous, obviously, on both sides of the ball, and the scheme would pop. So that one play's frustrating, but that was, to me, a really hard play to cover. They also did some things earlier in the game. They had a short yardage situation where the Niners, and they typically run a wide 9 front, the Niners, but they pinched in. They had Bosa, Hargrave, Armstead, and the other end, Chase Young, all in the A and B gap. They had nowhere to go. And so Kansas City was forced to burn a timeout. They seemed unprepared. I thought they'd run one of their patented jet sweeps off of it, or a pitch and get wide, because they loaded up in the A and B gap. So that's one play. That's a hard play to cover when he's giving you a two-way go there, with him rolling out to keep it, or if you step up and hit in his face, he's going to get it out to Kelsey somehow. So what do you do in that play? But there were a lot of plays the Niners won on defense where Kansas City wasn't ready. And in the ultimate analysis, they made the big plays at the end. And it's a hell of a tough loss, Andrew. I mean, going back to the Super Bowl 54 loss, just brutal. You had them down, 10 points with 7:13 to play, the championship game in L.A.
Yep.
Not able to convert a 2nd and 1 or a 3rd and 2, drop a pick. And last year in Philly, the quarterback gets his elbow ripped off, and then this one, you get your heart ripped out. So I've been with the Niners 5 years now. We've lost 2 Super Bowls and 2 NFC Championship games. So it's hard. And it's really, it's easy to go back and look at moments and plays, and Trent could see it from the sideline. But when you're in the middle of it, they got him outflanked on that play.
And yeah, Mahomes is also like
Mahomes. He's
the
Mahomes.
ultimate deodorant. If the play stinks, he'll make it smell better.
That's a John Madden quote, I think. Winning is the ultimate deodorant.
Exactly. And he is the ultimate quarterback to erase all negative things. And he won again. And now it is vacation time. I hope you ski safely. You enjoy some time by the fire with your feet up, pour a cocktail, and take your mind off this stuff. We appreciate
I'm gonna take about a week and a half off before I come back to work. And by then, we still have lost the Super Bowl. So it's one of those you never get over.
Oh,
but
hey,
at some point, the hard part is it's a beautiful day in the Bay Area. We'd be having a parade in downtown San Francisco right now.
Hey, as a Browns fan, I'm still replaying the opening drive of the third quarter, in which they're in plus territory, and it's a field goal game. They're going in, but they. So
it happens. That's why we love sports, right?
Also why we hate sports. Yes. Greg Papa, you're the best, man. Talk to you soon.
My friend. Thank you, Andrew.
Greg.
So that was Greg Papa on the Rich Eisen show to talking about that loss in the Super Bowl. And we talk about, like I did the other day, a few days ago when we did our Monday recap on the aftermath, Super Bowl 58 aftermath, the finality, and for the second time in 5 years that the Niners fall short, just a buck short of capturing the franchise's 6th Super Bowl trophy in franchise history. And, this one, I think, is in my opinion, had to be the biggest heartbreak 49ers postseason loss in franchise history. And the rich tradition of, of the near misses, it's just one of those things, that you just, when you have an opportunity, you better take full advantage of it. But, you look at the reason why the Niners lost, and, they had too many mistakes. They had the first drive, McCaffrey fumbled, then too many post-snap penalties, the false starts when they're on offense, drop balls, too many opportunities, 4 false start penalties, and then the defense, they played well, but it's just that, when Kyle had to call that timeout before Mahomes did the last game-winning touchdown drive, that probably was right there that broke the camel's back and sealed Steve Wilkes' fate. So, looking at from Patrick Mahomes, he's only the 3rd different quarterback ever to win 3 Super Bowl MVPs. He has done all this before turning under the age of 30. And it was him, Tom Brady, Joe Montana. And then for the 49ers, this is some of the stats we don't want to get into. The Niners right now own the 2nd longest drought without a Super Bowl win, since that's only the Redskins / Commanders did back in 1991, January of 92. The Niners, January of 95 after the 94 regular season. And then Dallas is right behind San Francisco. And then that's in the NFC. And then the Raiders, of course, have not been to the Super Bowl, have not won it all since 40 years. 1983, January of 84, when they beat the Washington Redskins. And then the Miami Dolphins have the longest drought since 1973. They, of course, won back-to-back Super Bowls, January of 74. And the last time the Dolphins had been to the Super Bowl was 1984, January of 85, when the Niners beat the Dolphins 38-16. And, that was how it it was. And so also want to get into also look at some other stats. So, you look at the last two matchups in the Super Bowl for the 49ers. They, in the second half against the Chiefs, they had been outscored 43-12 in the second half, or in overtime against the Chiefs in the two Super Bowl matchups. And then here's another stat by Andy Reid. Even if Andy Reid's teams are 30-7 following a bye week since 2000, or with an 8-10 winning percentage, winning 81% of those games since 2000. That's the best mark in pro football since 2000. And then this is going back to his time with the Philadelphia Eagles. And then Chiefs defensive coordinator, you got to give Steve Spagnuolo a lot of credit dialing up blitz at a 51.2% against Brock Purdy drop back passes. And now we're going to have to, as we continue on Niners Radio 49, we're going to get into this period of the what's going to happen for the Niners next in this offseason, as now the offseason begins. And what's going to so we're going to just take a look and live of the free agency coming up for the 49ers, and going to pull this up. They're going to have some decisions. So this is some of the free agency the 49ers will have to deal with. I just want to check this. These are the the key free agents for the 49ers. They'll have defensive end Chase Young, Tashawn Gibson, John Feliciano, Javon Kinlaw, Sam Darnold, Oren Burks, Celine Farrell, Randy Gregory, defensive tackle Kevin Givens, defensive tackle Joseph Day, guard Ben Bartak, tight end Ross Dwelly, tight end Charlie Warner, linebacker Demetrius Flanagan-Foles, safety Logan Ryan, wide receiver Chris Conley, offensive tackle Matt Pryor, quarterback Brent Allen would all be free agents. And then also taking a look of so that's will be your free agency. And then the Niners, Purdy will have 1 year left on his rookie contract. The Niners are now $46 million over the cap. And looking at who they're going to have to sign, they're going to have to lock up Purdy for a long-term deal. You're going to Brandon Ayuk, he's going to be up for extension. It's possibility they may have to trade him or something to get within that cap space, because they're going to have to pay. They're going to have to pay Purdy, and then George Kittle. Wonder will he have to whether Purdy will he will Purdy will be getting a big payday. Debo Samuel and then Nick Bosa and then Hargraves and then other decisions. Danny Graves, the wide receiver, Ray McLeod would be up. Contracts would be up as well. So with this salary cap, a hard cap, you know, you're going to have to make some tough decisions because when you have success and the Niners are in this window, in this zone for the last 5 years, best record in the NFC over the last 5 years, you're going to have to make some tough decisions. It's a hard cap, and the cap doesn't get any bigger. The pie doesn't, or I should say, the pie doesn't get any bigger. And it wouldn't be fair if, it wouldn't be fair if someone else doesn't get that slice of that pie, and it wouldn't be fair. So you know, there's going to be some tough decisions. When with this salary cap, and it's a very very hard cap, a very hard cap, and then we so we're also going to look at some other things with the free agent with plus Drake Greenlaw. That according to ATZOsports.com, the status on Drake Greenlaw. He had his Achilles surgery this week, a few days ago after the Super Bowl. Question is that crushing. That was a this is according to AZ Sports, and they don't have to. I mean, looking at this article, just scrolling down this. Looking at the yep. So looking at that situation there, he's going to be out for at least 6 months. Hopefully, he'll be ready. He may miss some time to start. He may miss training camp, but and then they're going to have to see what's going to happen as well. So let's now get into what the Niners plans for the off season coming up, as now we're the first weekend of without football, either in college or pros. But the off season, it's never an off season. So I'm just trying to get this thing, the important dates as the Super Bowl, as this 23 season comes to. So we're going to just pull this up. Here we go. The important dates coming up for the step into the off season. And so we will scroll all the way this down to about February. So now we're at February 20th, beginning at 4 o'clock East, 4 o'clock Eastern Time, 1 o'clock Pacific on the West Coast. Clubs may designate franchise or transition players, and then the scouting combine will be the scouting combine will be coming up at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, February 27th through March 4th in Indianapolis. Beautiful facility down there in Indianapolis. Then, prior to 4 p.m. New York time, the deadline the clubs to designate franchise transition players during the period of 12 noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on March 11th, ending at 3:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. On March 13th, clubs are permitted to contact and enter in contact negotiations that certify agents or of players who will become an unrestricted free agent upon the expiration of their player contract at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on March 13th. And then from March 11th to the 13th, that'd be March 5th. And then the first day of the 2024, the new league year will end at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 on March 13th. Clubs will receive personnel notice, including transactions submitted to the league office period between at 4 o'clock Eastern on March 13th. And then that's when the free agency period will begin. Will begin in mid-March, 11th to the 13th, or the 13th, when the the new league year will begin. And then that's when the annual league meeting will be in Orlando, Florida, from March 24th through the 27th in Orlando. And then on April 1st, clubs that hire a new head coach at the end of the 2023 regular season may begin their offseason workout programs. And then clubs with returning head coaches may begin their OTAs workout programs. And the deadline for clubs time to test and interview conduct physical examination with draft eligibility at its club's facilities. Deadline restricted free agents to sign offer sheets, and then the NFL draft will be held in Motown April 25th to the 27th. Then deadline for clubs to exercise the fifth-year option for players selected in the first round of the 21 draft. And then clubs may hold their 3-day post-draft rookie minicamp from Friday through Sunday or Saturday through Monday on one of the 2 weekends following the draft. Then the rookie football development programs begin May 13th. Spring league meeting for coaches will be held May 20th through the 22nd in Nashville, Tennessee. So this is how the league year begins, and then in mid-July at 4 o'clock Eastern, any club that designates a franchise player such as multi-year contract at this date may sign a 1-year deal. Then I'm going to skip this through. Then training camp will start. Then it's training camp, and then the Hall of Fame game. All of that will be so that's how the off season always training camp. So it's never an off season. It's never an off season. We will be on Niners Radio 49. We'll be doing some stuff in the off season. we'll be having special guests come on our podcast. We're also going to try to reach out, bring former 49ers out there, have our segment called Forever 49er, a former Niner who played on the Super Bowl teams during their dynasty during the 80s and the 90s, and will even come on with share their time being a member of the 5-time Super Bowl champion San Francisco 49ers. So that's going to end up doing it for now. I'm Brian Professor B. Davis. We'd like to thank all of you for watching this special edition of the 49ers 2023 season recap for your NFC Champion San Francisco 49ers. And then we'd like to thank all of you for watching all throughout all of our pre- and post-game stuff. And also, throughout the entire year out at Empire Road, we completed our 10th season. And, it's been go by real fast, though, And, for the 49ers who got so close, and, you look over the last 5 years, Super Bowl heartbreaker to the Chiefs. And then 2020, was a COVID year. They were just hit. They were just ravaged by so many injuries, COVID, and we were not allowed to even go out to Levi Stadium. We had to have our podcast, had to do all of our pregame, postgame shows, even at home, of course, on and here at our studios in San Francisco. And then, 2021, they go to the NFC Championship game, had commanding 10-point lead against the Rams, lost it. They end up losing 20-17, a heartbreaker, as the Rams go on to win the Super Bowl. Last year, of course, they get to the NFC Championship after Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt. They bring in Brock Purdy. Purdy injures his elbow. The Niners never had a chance. And then they get back to the Super Bowl for the second time in as many years. And then, did not get that, to lose a heartbreaker again was very, very tough. So, that's just the sad way, the finality, now that the season's over. I know a lot of people the players in there. I really, really, really are wearing this one. And it's just a sad way that the season ended, but a lot to be proud of. And, we just have to the Niners, if you're Niner faithful, got to put this one behind you. I want to try to share something from this 49er fan. This was a good video piece. And let me scroll this one up. This was a Niner fan named Kelvin DeBrown. And this is what he said. I'm going to pull this up before we get out of Dodge for this evening. We're going to listen to what he said to the Niner faithful. I'm going to pull this up and we'll let you listen to it.
The Niners is one of 4 teams with the most. Hey, Niner faithful, Niner Empire. Let me holler at you guys real quick. I'm going to say this as best and nice as possible. Do not engage in conversations with individuals in your sphere of other teams not named the Kansas City Chiefs. In totality of 58 Super Bowls, the San Francisco 49ers is one of 4 teams with the most Super Bowls in history, of Super Bowl history. So these fans that just won the last 20 years, 10 years, and said we got more relevance than you, cool, but you still trail. The Super Bowl is not based on when that team won. It's based on all 58 Super Bowls. That's what you play for, is to say, hey, I got more than you. I had the most, you know what I'm saying? I guarantee you the Kansas City Chiefs fans, especially watching this game, most Kansas City Chiefs fans are going to have a few trolls, but the vast majority respect the hell out the 49ers. I guarantee you they do. I know some real Chiefs fans, not ones that got Chiefs fan when Mahomes got there. I'm talking about fans when the Chiefs didn't win for 50 years.
Yep.
See, people forget how this stuff worked.
That's
Andy
right.
Reid went almost his whole career without winning a Super Bowl as a head coach until Mahomes got to Kansas City.
That's right.
Kyle Shanahan has been in 2 Super Bowls since 2017. He didn't have to wait 20 years to get there. Now, even though we ain't won, fair enough, we lost to a generational talent like every other NFL team does. So we just have to do our best to get back there and pull it out and be healthy. No excuses. I mean, Dre Greenlaw going out hurt, but no excuses. We still had the opportunity to win the game.
That's right.
And we didn't capitalize.
That's
but the
right.
whole point of me making this video, I don't care if it's a Cowboy fan, Eagles fan, especially a team that don't even got 5 Super Bowls. Like, why are we even talking to them? They can talk to themselves. They just need somebody to feed off their energy because they suck. Truth be told.
Right.
If you ain't the Kansas City Chiefs, it's nobody who can say something to you. I mean, they beat us, so it makes sense that they want to troll us and trash talk us. But I guarantee you, real KC fans that respect and understand the game of football ain't gonna do that.
Right.
I guarantee you, Kansas City sitting here like, damn, man, them Niners, man, they tough. You know what I'm saying? And the same thing. So you understand good football, and it's all good. You win, you lose. The New England Patriots got 6 Super Bowls and lost to the Giants twice, and they still got 6. You think they care about them 2 losses? So San Francisco fans, man, look, let this roll off your shoulder. We got a whole another year next year. We stay healthy, we might be back in the Super Bowl. It's hard to get there. But I like our chance to get back again.
That's right.
We're only going to get better from here. So Purdy's in year 2. He's going to be more experienced next year. We stay healthy. I like our chances to finally crack and win one. And it's all good. We're getting close and close each year. Now we just got to win it. NFC Championship last year, Super Bowl this year, next year, you know, and historically, it's hard for teams to three-peat. I'm not saying KC can't do it, but it hasn't been done in NFL history. So, in Super Bowl history. So, I like our chances next year, man. So, hold your head up. Stop talking to people that don't got nothing to talk about. We only lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. We beat everybody on our schedule that we had to beat to get here, and we beat 2 teams in the postseason. So, bang, bang, Niner game. Go 49ers. We'll be back. All right? Good game, though. Hell of a game. Head off and salute to the Kansas City Chiefs. They won. Can't say nothing bad about it.
And that guy, that brother, put it into proper perspective. You know, I know it. You know, it was tough. You know, and me as a longtime Niner fan, been a Niner fan since the mid '80s, going on almost 40 years, and I could really it really made me feel good. But put this in perspective. When the Chiefs, you look at what for the Niner fans and the Chiefs going back to the mid '60s, the Chiefs played in the first ever Super Bowl, won against the Packers. They just ran in when they were still the AFL, the original American Football League, against the Green Bay Packers, who were the part of the old guard of the NFL before the 2 leagues merged in 1970. Packers won that first Super Bowl, and it was by an unheralded tight end, backup tight end, Max McGee, who got drunk, wasted the night before the big game. He snuck out of curfew and had he balled out that next day, had a big game. The Packers beat them 35-40. Then they beat the Raiders the next year to win their second Super Bowl. It was Vince Lombardi's final Super Bowl. The Packers, of course, went through some lot of lean years after Lombardi retired and passed, and and they wouldn't get back to the big game until Mike Holmgren, Brett Favre, Reggie White Packers in '96, and they ended up beating the Niners to get there in the playoff game. But it puts things in perspective what he was saying. Like for generational Kansas City Chiefs fans, even before Mahomes and Andy Reid came there, the Chiefs had some great teams in the '90s. You go back into like when Marty Schottenheimer was there, Carl Peterson, who was worked with Dick Vermeil in Philadelphia. Vermeil would later coached the Kansas City Chiefs in the mid 2000s, got them going, you know, and put things into a proper perspective. The Chiefs, after their Super Bowl win in January of 1970, and then they were good again in the early set till about 1971, and that when they lost that heartbreaker to that young Miami Dolphin team who was on the rise, and the young Miami Dolphin team with Don Shula, and on Christmas Day 1971, and they went to the AFC Championship, went and then beat the Colts, and then they lost that Super Bowl to the Dallas Cowboys, their first of 3 Super Bowls in a 3-year span. They, of course, the next year they got back there, had the perfect regular season, undefeated season in 72. Then they followed that up with a Super Bowl against the Redskins, and then they followed that up. That was in January of 73. Then the following year, they followed up with a Super Bowl win against the Minnesota Vikings in January of 1974. They currently have the longest Super Bowl drought by any team in the NFL, and they I believe, have the longest drought, and they hadn't been to Pro Football's ultimate big game since January of '85, and that was, of course, my first ever Super Bowl I watched on TV as a young 8-year-old when your Niners beat the Dolphins 38-16 to win that second Super Bowl in 4 years. So, putting things into perspective, it's hard to win that last game of the year. And I know, I mean, I really feel bad for the players, and I could feel their pain. That's nothing fails in comparisons what I have gone through the last couple of years for my other job when I'm not doing Niners, doing the football season, not doing 49ers football. I had to, it's funny, around this time 2 years ago, right after the NFC Championship, when Brian Bauer and Dina Howard, who Brian Bauer gave me this opportunity to do Niners Radio 49, that he didn't want to do it no more. And I just said, hey, I want to continue with the legacy of this Niners Radio 49. And, all of last year or 2 years ago around this time, it was a year of transition, because of I was just excited of my new gig doing program information director for Niners Radio 49. But then, unfortunately, some unfortunate circumstances just threw a monkey wrench out of having our full off season, and we never got things off the ground real quick because of my other gig doing USF Dons baseball. What happened with Coach Giarratano when he was unceremoniously fired because of the issues, because of what happened. And it all because of his former assistant, Troy Nakamura, was fired for his inappropriate behavior when he exposed himself. And then he returned to the field after he was let go, and then that just was an ugly mess I don't want to get into. But one day, Coach Giarratano will who has gotten support, and he will get exonerated someday. But unfortunately, Troy Nakamura will not, because he's got no support. But Coach getting let go, I had to shut down operations indefinitely, and we only had a condensed, shortened training camp to get everything up to date because of my temporary went on that unexpected temporary leave of absence. But in perspective, you look back in perspective, putting it into a proper perspective. Teams have gone longer without championships. The teams like my other favorite team, when they're not playing the 49ers, the Cleveland Browns, who Kevin Stefanski deservedly won Coach of the Year. I think they are definitely a consistent quarterback away. And I like Nick, a big fan of Nick Chubb and all that, But we, the Cleveland Browns probably are taking that next step up, and then you have the Cleveland Browns or the Detroit Lions, I say, have not won a playoff, hadn't won a championship, never won. Neither of those two teams have ever been to the Super Bowl. They have not won a championship since 1957. The Browns have not won a championship. That same year, the Lions last won their championship in 1957. That same year, I believe Jim Brown broke into the NFL his rookie year. The late Jim Brown, a legend, and then the Cleveland Browns end up, you know, so that's where, the Cleveland Browns, and they're very loyal fans. That they had their, and then the Arizona Cardinals, the Browns, so I'm just doing some research. Their last league championship was, I got to look this up. So I'm waiting for this to this download. So I got the wrong one. Looking at franchises gone longer without an NFL or a Super Bowl championship. They end up taking a look at that. Cardinals, by the way, have only been to the playoffs only 12 times. And then their last NFL, they've only won 2 championships, league NFL championships in their franchise history. It was 1925 and 1947. So in perspective, the Cardinals have only been to the NFC Championship only twice since the merger. They end up, I'm going to pull this up right here. Look at all the teams that have gone. This is a good exercise. I'm going to pull this up. Cardinals, they've only won one cup. The Cardinals have only won one championship since 1920 of any postseason championship of any kind since 1947. Only since in the last 75 years, and that's when they were. I think that's where when they were. And they were the Chicago Cardinals, and they played their home games. And they played at the old Comiskey Park on the Chicago south side. They were old tenants with the Chicago White Sox baseball. They've only won a postseason championship of any kind only one time since 1947. And then the Detroit Lions have only once had won a championship since '57. Cleveland hasn't won it since 1964. And but that guy who I just shared that video, puts things in perspective. So I believe Cleveland and Detroit is the only teams that have never been to the Super Bowl. And then with the Chiefs, of course, winning the Super Bowl, they're now one, two. And yep, other teams with 4 of the 8 different teams to win at least 4 Super Bowls. And then the Giants got 4 Super Bowls, and 2 of their 4 wins was against the New England Patriots, who were the undefeated season in '72, the greatest upset in Super Bowl history, right up there when Joe Namath upset the Don Shula's Baltimore Colts team in Super Bowl III back in '68. And then, but for the old school Chiefs fans, and I've run into a few of the old school, like the Cleveland Browns fans, who have to be thankful because there's not a lot of teams have never won a Super Bowl. Like the Cleveland Browns, they have suffered through so much misery. Like the '80s, for example, they lost a heartbreaker to the Raiders, to the wild card Raiders, and Raiders' improbable run to the Super Bowl 15 Super Bowl win in January of '81. Red Right '88, Brian Sipe trying to connect with Ozzie Newsome. Then the late Mike Davis intercepted that ball. The Browns are 2 devastating back-to-back losses in the AFC Championship to Denver. And then, then after that, they lost to Denver again in '89. And then after that, the everything fell apart. It looked like things were going back in the right direction for the Browns. And then when they moved, the word came out when they were going to move the Browns after the '95 season. They were going to move to Baltimore, and then things just, the Browns came back in 1999. The Browns only making their only their second postseason appearance, their third postseason appearance since 2002. And this is only the third time in nearly the last 3 decades they have made the postseason. But so the Niners, I again, congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs. Once again, they won the Super Bowl. They won it fair square. And then this is the story that we're gonna. I want to wrap it up, but before we do, we're gonna give you an update on those. Provides an update on that happened. It was 2 juveniles were charged with crimes connected to the mass shooting at Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl rally. Authorities said Friday the city tries to recover the aftermath of violence. And here is Police Chief Grace provide an update of the shooting. And I'm gonna We're gonna wait till this thing. This is video courtesy by the Associated Press. And also, former 49er Raiders Jimmy Garoppolo is going to get a two-game suspension for violating the substance. Raiders most likely are going to release him in the next few weeks. So we're going to wrap it up for now on Niners Radio 49. I'd like to thank all of you for watching all year long. And of course, like to thank all of you 49er faithful for watching all the content. If you want to watch any of the content we had, to youtube.com/ at Niners Radio 49. We thank all of the Niner faithful all year for what they have done. They for all you fans, for doing our pre and post game. We couldn't do it without you as we continue to build this thing, continue to build this thing and get it to where where we want to try to reach new heights. And even though the football season's over, there's no off season. We will have some Niners Radio 49 specials. Like I said earlier, we'll have try to do a new segment, Forever 49er Faithful, player from the past. We're gonna try to get some special guests come on. I'm gonna try to get Matt Mayoko on from NBC Sports Bay Area within the next week or two. Because now he'll have some downtime. We'll just recap the season, where the Niners go for free agency. And we're going to continue to build this thing up and get this thing right. And we're just going to continue to build on this, and continue to build this thing on keep on building this thing, getting this thing on the right track. And we like to thank all of you guys supporting all year long. I like to thank the 49er Empire 408 chapter, Empire Faithful, for all of the hospitality all year long throughout when we had our Niners tailgate shows live, or we do our weekly shows. And we're going to definitely try to improve on that for next year. We thank Antonio Orvallo and the winery, the Gold Bar Whiskey Crew, the Gold Bar Whiskey Crew for their tailgate all year long. They did a bang out job at the Super Bowl when they had Joe Montana making a special appearance. And right now, we're going to he's going to be up for a big time award with our sister network, Satellite Digital Media, and we that, and also thanks to the other people, Trey Brazewall and her husband Chuck, Abudea, and Antonio's sister Angelica, and then for Joe, Jay Esperanza, the rest of the crew. And like I said, and then for other people, the Faithful Club with Jamie Garrison and her dad, Mark, and that group. Sadly, we were able to go down there this year to some of the when they have the weekly fan club. I'm hopefully want to join that next year. Try to keep in contact with them during the off season. When we start doing our planning, we just do or something. And then all you Niner fans throughout on our Facebook and on our networking, all the special guests we had throughout the year, from all the names from Wayne Laverity we had on a few weeks ago, Matt Mayoko. We had the likes of also Brian Mitchell, the former Philadelphia Eagles, former Super Bowl champion, Washington Redskins, works for a radio station in Washington, D.C. during their drive time. Also, we like to thank Wayne Laverity, the voice of the Green Bay Packers, came on to preview that playoff game a few weeks ago. We also thank David Murphy from Big Sky Sports. He covers the Arizona Cardinals. It's fun to have him come on. And we're going to continue to build this thing. You know, we're going to try to start doing some donations and fundraisers so we can build something bigger and better. Bigger and better. Throughout the year, throughout the coming years, and we want to continue to have this thing and continue to build this thing, you know. And you know, we also like to thank other people. You know, we do a lot of features throughout the year. Um, High school football in the fall. We're going to be trying to amp that up more, do more games. We did a few this year. We also Uh, we did some high school football games, covered some games, you know, featured big games throughout the city, the Turkey Days at St. Ignatius Wildcats. We're going to continue to build this thing and be not just to do more cover with the 49ers, but we want to do more in the community as well. And we're going to continue to build this thing. We're going to continue to set the standard of excellence. And, you know, and we want to continue to do this. We want to continue to just to build this thing and get it to the highest level. And you know, we're going to keep on grinding. We'll keep on doing it, though. And we like to thank all of you for watching all year long on Niners Radio 49. I know it's still disappointing, but you just take a deep breath and just you know, we all reminded that it is a game. And you know, and like I said, our condolences go out to the Chiefs and that the Chiefs Kingdom, but that terrible thing that happened a few days ago in Kansas City, and the victims of this horrendous crime. And luckily, they did catch the two teenage perpetrators who did this, and they're going to be facing some, you know, you know, serious charges. And you know, they always the old saying they're innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. So we are gonna get ready to wrap it up, and also last but not least, trying to think who else we want to thank. Also the Hyatt Hilton Hotel, the Hyatt Regency. That's our home base, doing every 49er home game throughout the year. Thank you for their hospitality and everything. Great times to be out there during the regular season. And we're going to hopefully be back with them. We've been making that switch since we left Dave's Bar and Grill 4 years ago. Since that place closed, we now have a new home. That been our kind of our new home base, the Hyatt Regency. Each of the last three, completing our third season there, and we're going to be back there doing Niners football in the fall as well next summer. So a lot's going to be going on. We're going to have we'll be giving you updates on free agency. Of course, Steve Wilkes has been let go. Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll, uh, candidates to be defensive coordinator. Of course, Pete Carroll was the Niners defensive coordinator, and he's from the North Bay Marin area. So, and when we have any breaking news stories on who's going to be the next defensive coordinator or who the Niners sign for free agency, Niners Radio 49 will be there throughout the off season, because there's never an off season. Football season maybe be over, but there always a news story out there, and we'll be on that as always. So thanks for for watching, everybody. And I know it's still down for a lot of people, the disappointment of not hoisting that sixth Super Bowl. But what this franchise has been gone through in recent years, the loss to Kansas to the Chiefs 4 years ago, then 2020 COVID wiped out the whole year. That terrible, deadly disease wiped out COVID, and then and then losing back-to-back NFC championships after the dreadful 2020 season, where they were just so decimated by injuries, and then bouncing back. You know, you know, losing to the Rams, a heartbreaker. Then losing to the Eagles last year. Brock Purdy gets injured, and then the Niners losing another heartbreaker in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs last Sunday. And we also like to just acknowledge some other people. I'm just trying to get my mind clear. Just to, we also like to thank Dennis Brown, former 49er, for being on the podcast, being on some of the podcasts when he has a chance. Busy guy, run into him in the city, does the homeless, working with, not the homeless, but the food drives here in the city. Hopefully we'll catch up with him real soon down the road. And then we also thank a lot of great people who have been on there. Antonio Orvallo. By the way, he's going to be getting a special award. Go for that sixth Super Bowl win. And next year will be the 30-year anniversary of that 94 Super Bowl. In fact, next year will be multiple anniversaries. The 40-year anniversary of the 1984 49ers team that won Super Bowl 19. They compiled the league best record, 15-1. Their only loss was to the Pittsburgh Steelers back in Week 7. Other than that, they would have been only the second team in the history of the National Football League to go undefeated, but they sell for a 15-1 season. First team since they had the advent of that 16 game schedule format back in 1978 to go undefeated. And I forgot to even mention the Niners will play the teams that they will play next year. They're going to have the first place schedule. They're going to have a really tough schedule. They will get the NFC North. They will have the Lions. Detroit will come back out here to the Bay Area, the rematch of the NFC Championship. Then the Chicago Bears will be coming out here to the Mecca. The Niners will play the Bears now for the Bears' first visit out here to the Bay Area for the first time since 2015. No, since 2018. And for the Niners against the Bears, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, not 19, not 20, 21, 22. This will be for the 8th time. The Niners will hook up with the Bears for the 8th time in the last 11 years that the Niners will play the Chicago Bears. And this will be their first. The Bears, the Bears are 2-0 against the 49ers at Levi Stadium. Of course, nearly a decade ago, 10 years ago, when they played the first ever home game at Levi Stadium in 2014, a decade ago, that was when the Bears came from behind to beat the 49ers at Levi Stadium in the Niners' first home game. And the Niners will play the Bears. This will be 8 out of the last 11 years. And then they also got to go to Minneapolis at U.S. Bank Stadium in downtown Minneapolis to take on the Minnesota Vikings. Then they'll have to go to Lambeau Field to take on the improving Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field. And then they get the AFC East division They'll have to go to Buffalo. They got to go to Miami, to South Florida. Then they'll get both the Jets and Patriots at Levi Stadium. And this will be the first, the Niners will be playing the Patriots. This will be the first time that next year be the first time the Niners will play the Patriots, not involving either Bill Belichick or Tom Brady. First time since 1990 in a regular season game since 1998. It'll be the first time they'll be playing them at Levi Stadium, not involving Brady or Belichick or Brady since 1995, when Bill Parcells was the head coach, when Drew Bledsoe was quarterback of the Patriots that year in 1995. Then they will play the New York Jets. Robert Saleh, the New York Jets. A lot of questions with that. Whether Saleh, now is on the hot seat. He'll have Aaron Rodgers back, but if they don't get off to a good start, don't do well next year, he will be on the hot seat. And then, they will also have the rematch because they'll play the extra AFC team. They will take on the Kansas City Chiefs again for the second time in 3 years. They'll play the Chiefs for the second time within the full calendar year, third time within the last 2 years, 2 full calendar years, and they will play. And then they'll have the rematch of Super Bowls 54 and 58. This time they'll commence. This will be commenced at Kezar Stadium. The Chiefs have beaten the 49ers with that win last Sunday. They've under Patrick Mahomes, they're 4-0. They've won 6 of their last 7 games overall. Andy Reid is 4-1 versus the Chiefs, versus San Francisco. Has beaten them 4 out of 5. Overall, 6 of Andy Reid. He's 4-1, and Andy Reid's teams are 10-3 against San Francisco in the last 13 meetings. So the Chiefs have total domination of the 49ers. And the question and the thing is now, this is another added chapter to a Niner AFC opponent in the interconference rival. You think of the Niners and Raiders as the all-time NFC Niners-Raiders rivalry, going back to the Raiders being in the Bay Area on 2 different occasions. You also could say the 49ers and the Bengals, going back to Bill Walsh's days as the Niners offensive coordinator with Paul Brown. The story was after the 75 season, he did not get the head coaching gig. So he left. He ended up going to San Diego to be the quarterback's coach. Then ended up getting the coaching gig in a few years. Ended up getting a coaching gig at Stanford. Then joined the 49ers in 79 and would hook up with the Bengals twice in the Super Bowl. And there's a lot of history with that. And other interconference rivals, that's probably pretty much it, though, when it comes to interconference rival. It could be you could throw in the Chargers, too, as an interconference rival, because there is some classic games they've hooked up in the Super Bowl. Now with Jim Harbaugh, now with the LA Chargers, there is some history because he used to coach with the 49ers. And then, Dan Fouts, who was from St. Ignatius High School graduate. Dan Fouts, quarterback, his dad, Bob Fouts, was a longtime 49ers announcer. So that's going to do it for now. Brian, Professor B. Davis, thank you for watching this special edition of Niners Radio 49. We just about covered everything we covered everything. And a recap of the Niners 2023 season. And the Niners are about to go from here. And we'd like to thank all of you for watching Niners Radio 49. And remember, there's no off season. We will have some special features frequently. And, trying to build this thing up to a consistent podcast daily. we thank you for watching all year long. For all the latest news on 49ers news and so much more, go to 49ers.com. You can always check us out at youtube.com/@NinersRadio49 and to catch all of the content. Listen to all the content, past interviews, and so much more. That's it for now. Brian Professor B. Davis, and would like to thank you. And so long. Thank you for watching this special presentation of 49ers Niners Radio 49 special, the 2020 of your NFC Champion 2023 season recap on Niners Radio 49. Niners Radio 49's association with the Satellite Digital Media News Network, and where every team has a fan and every fan has a voice, the network home of champions. I'd like to thank you for all of you watching throughout this entire season, and 49ers football, faithful to the Bay. Go Niners!